Yeah, recently I met up with a guy and he had a bunch of equipment for sale. And he had these subs, these 2 amps. As you can see, they had water damage. I'll show you the board in a minute, but I have some cool plans. But some of the best things I got were these 2 subs. So they're MRX 500s, but they're 18-inch 4-ohm woofers. Super nice. And you can see the front. And I got a ton of cables. There's way more, I just don't have all of them with me. But a bunch of cables. Nice amount of real Neutrik connectors. That worked out pretty cool. And then these amps. So one of them was on the bottom, one was on the top. This was the bottom one. It got completely water damaged. And this was the top one, which looks good, but unfortunately it's not. Just the front of each of these amps got water damage. I have the other board out here. This board I already took apart and I'm gonna try and sell it for parts, but we got, yeah, just a little bit damage. The front is all destroyed, but the back on each amp is almost new looking, unfortunately, but I'm gonna salvage what parts I can and see if I can get some money for them. And my plan is, close that. My plan is to use these back plates for an amp rack that I have. So I want to make, it's gonna have, I have a drive rack PA, so I'm gonna have these as the inputs to it, the left and right input, and then they'll run from that to the amps already in the rack. But I want to have, so I have, let's see, XLR inputs, and then I can have the link out through XLR in case I want to run to like another rack. And then I want to have the Neutrik. So I'll run from the amps in my rack. I'll run from probably the binding posts to these Neutrik, to the Neutrik jacks. And then I haven't decided yet, but it's the rack I'm talking about, it's 2 Crown XLS 1000s and then a QSC GX5. And the Crowns run bridge to subs, and then the QSC runs stereo out to the tops. So like I was saying, maybe I'll cut down here and then combine it right here, so it'll just be this double right on top of each other. But then I kind of want to keep the fan. I gotta figure it out, but that's the plan, is to keep the fan, have the 4 Neutrik plugs, and then in and out for the drive rack. And I also want to utilize, if I do cut up this amp, at least just the back plate and sell for parts, I want to use these for DMX. So I'll have DMX built into the rack already. I have a little controller like that big, so I can have just DMX out, ready to go when you plug in the rack. Also with the equipment, I think all of these work. I haven't used audio yet, but they all turn on and don't have, only this BVE. So this is a Sonic Maximizer. This thing's old, but we got this, a double DBX EQ. It's got from 20 hertz all the way to, we got 20,000, and then another DBX, but just a single, and then a power conditioner. And then I got, that's the front to that Crown. But I got there were a few brand new cables, and then some nicer 1/4-inch cables that I had gotten, and a little PV mixer, which I'm gonna sell. And then, like I said, with the equipment, I got a bunch of wiring. This is a bunch of 1/4-inch that I already have up for sale, just to try and help someone out. I put it up for cheap locally. But I got a good amount of speaker cable. Some of it's longer, but these are 14 gauge, I believe. But I had one piece of 12 gauge, which is nice. If it would focus, you can actually see it. So I have some 12 gauge. So these are gonna be running from the 2 bridged amps. So I'll have, well, like a left bridge and a right bridge for the sub. So left and right sub, and since they're thicker wire, I mean, I don't think it needs to be this thick for how short the cable is, but it'll work out. So that'll be nice, and I know it'll be thick enough for sure. So those will run to each Neutrik from my rack. And then I'm gonna use some of this 14 gauge, and actually this is old wire, but I didn't know PV made wire. Look at that. Barely see it. PV brand Speak a while, I'll have some of the 14 gauge running for the stereo Neutrik plugs. Because the last gig I did, it was kind of a pain when I went to plug in the rack because I had to reach into it. It's just a SKB. It's like from here up to say about here. It fits 3 amps, a drive rack, and a single space power conditioner. But it was kind of a pain reaching all the way in and plugging in the Neutrik. So it'd be nice to just have everything labeled right on the back where I can just open it up, plug everything in. Power button works. This works good. These are kind of locked up, but this knob doesn't turn, so I'm imagining that this one's not good. But God, it looks brand new. Look at that. No scratches. Moment of truth. Oh. That's what I thought. Man. So close. Look at this. Just like the other one. Look at that. Look at all the corrosion. And then the back looks brand new. That sucks. If you're wondering, these amps are one big board, so I can't just replace this. This is one entire board. So from this amp, finally I've gotten out the fan. I've unscrewed a few things here and there like this. I'm gonna be using this plate. I'm gonna make something out of both of them, but I got the front plate off. Yeah, this amp's pretty much trash, but I'm gonna keep the front plate as it just kind of looks cool and it's not too beat up. Cool little wall art or something. But yeah. So after doing some cutting with many different tools, this is what I've come to. It's looking pretty good. I'm gonna make some trim to cover this middle piece and then have all the XLR, more Neutriks. I might drill these out for 2 more Neutriks and then 4 other Neutriks and binding posts. That's what we got. Made some little brackets in here. It's coming together. It's coming together. Just for another update now, I got this as a little trim piece basically, and then I got all 4 of these mounted here, so you got 8 Neutrik speaker-on plugs total. So this is coming out pretty cool. Alright, so here's basically the finished product. We got all the Neutriks in, the binding posts are all in, all the XLRs are hooked up. So we've got the tops are stereo Neutrik, well, speak on, and the bottoms are both bridge, so it's 1 amp, and then left and right from 1 amp. And then these aren't actually wired right now, but they're put in with the connectors, and I made cables with the connectors that can run to an amp that you plug in with Neutrik. And then the XLRs, they're all Neutrik brand XLRs, since they're out those crown amps. And all those are hooked up, and I had to modify, see, normally it's just 1 screw, if it would focus. Normally it's just 1 screw, so for these it was a little finicky, so I put in 2. And then the link out, they are hooked up, but that's not as important. So I'll take one of my nice cables I made. You can have left and right, just like that. They're nice and sturdy. They wiggle a little bit, but I mean, all do, but they work perfect. They're really nice to plug in. Yeah, that works great. And then for wiring, we've got, I don't think the binding posts are currently hooked up, but let's see. Look, I'm lifting this by it. It's very sturdy. So the thing itself is very sturdy. It's not going anywhere. I built in rack mounts for it, so it can stay. You can put it in any rack. What I've got going on is we've got yellow is bridge. So the yellow cables come from 2 crown amps. So bridged and bridged. And those run up here. These 2 thicker cables to the 2. And then for the left and right stereo, for the tops, I've got just Neutrik plugs. And they're all real. So I used a lot of the ones I got with the equipment. So I had a bunch of extra Neutrik plugs laying around, so I did that. And for XLRs, it runs to my drive rack, if I can find it. Here we are. got Neutrik XLRs that are wired straight to this, and the link outs do work like I said. So in my opinion, I think it came out amazing. To buy a patch panel like this, they're pretty expensive, I've realized, and this was basically free from the stuff I got. And these, if I want to put it in one of my bigger racks, I can have 8 outputs, and I'd probably do bridged, and then leave the tops as stereo, 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 and stereo. So yeah, it came out amazing. Very, very happy with it, and the wiring is super clean. And for what I've actually got in this rack, let me show you. Spin this around. Right now in here I've got, let's plug it in, why not? This power cord. So, we have got an All Pro sound, power conditioner. Got a Drive Rack PA Plus, I believe, yep. And then we've got QSC GX5. This amp's 500 watts at 8 ohms stereo, and then 700 watts per channel at 4 ohms. And then we've got 2 Crown XLS's. I just remembered I had taken the cord out because it was super long. I got to put in a shorter cord, the IEC, to plug in the amp. But yeah, everything works. I keep, this amp can only do stereo, and then I keep the crowns and bridged. And yeah, I cross over on the drive rack. See if it'll focus. There you go. I cross over on the drive rack and do everything in there. All different settings. Great piece of equipment. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed. I'm super happy with how this has come out. I think it looks great and professional. Very happy with it. So yeah, let me know what y'all think. And thanks for watching.